Hello, everybody. ESC Fan TV here, and I know a bit different. We're doing this, but we are doing a nice little update show since the very sad news about Rotterdam being cancelled, because a lot has happened in these 2.5 weeks since then. It's a bit mad, but we'll get into all of that as well as some other things we weren't able to discuss during the national final season that we've wanted to talk about with you guys, because we think there's more to it than just national finals and songs and internal selections. So we want to do all that. So beforehand, make sure you like the channel, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like this video, make sure you comment, all that stuff. You know the rules by now, guys. It's not hard. Please, it helps us, and hopefully you enjoy what we do. Right, let's move on to the panel. Let's go to my right, that way even. I will figure this out one day. From Denmark, it's Nicholas.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
Yes. And below him, we've got Gustav all the way in Sweden.
Hey guys, it's me again. You haven't gotten rid of me yet.
It's nice to have Sweden below Denmark for once.
That's a first.
Okay, by my watch, that's 70 seconds between the first and the day between Scandinavian countries. I think that's a record.
I think so too.
And directly below me is a new face. This is Noosh, who's from London, but I believe you have, is it Armenian descent?
Yes, I am British with Armenian blood.
Amazing.
Yes.
But, yeah, well, welcome to the madhouse. That is just how, there's no other way to describe it.
What a way to get started with the three of us, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Stuart, if no one knows, like me, Nicholas, and Gustav, we bicker a lot or we disagree. And to the point where Stuart has basically just nicknamed us a tripod of people. So,
oh my God.
Tripod of doom.
Take that what you will. But anyway.
No, I'm looking forward to that, for sure.
Amazing. But let's move on. And obviously, sadly, Eurovision 2020 isn't happening. Sad face, moment of mourning. But a lot has been happening, like, oh my God, like countries are coming out left, right, and centre about what they're doing for 2021, which is amazing. And at the moment, we have 12 to 13 countries confirming who is their artist, which is Australia, Austria, Azerbaijan, Belgium, Bulgaria, Georgia, Greece, Israel, Netherlands, Romania, Spain, Switzerland, and the Ukraine. Christ, that's a lot to say. So my first question to all of you, because obviously these were meant to be competing last year, and let's go to Noosh about this. Out of those countries that are sending their 2020 artist to next year, who are you most excited to see will get a second shot at Eurovision?
It's such a difficult one because we need to think about also what songs they're gonna, because they can't sing the same song, can they? So it's going to be a completely different thing, I think. I think the competition is just going to be its own thing, really. It'll be interesting to see the differences between like this year and next year. But I don't know. It's hard for me to say because they were such crazy songs this year. Like, they were mental. So how can they replicate that? I don't know. I think I'll need to see the songs first before I make like my opinion about it. But I'm interested to see what Montaigne does, because like her voice is so like unique, and that song that she performed was like completely different to anything I had ever heard in Eurovision. So I'm interested to see what her voice takes with us. But honestly, yeah, I need to hear the songs. Really, I really don't know. I have no idea.
And Nicholas, do you think there's a slight danger with the same artist going but with a different song? Is there a danger that fans and people might instantly automatically, like, let's take Montaigne for example, will they instantly play down her new song if they don't prefer it compared to Don't Break Me? Do you think there's a risk that the broadcasters and the artists are taking with going again?
I think there are some people who are going to be like that, but I think it goes down to that conversation that we have often where it's like, we as fans is a very small part of who votes at Eurovision. A lot of the people who will be watching the show next year maybe don't even know that these artists were supposed to be performing this year. So most of the audience will be looking at them with new eyes. There are going to be people who are going to say, oh, well, I didn't like this artist last year, so I'm not going to like them now. And there are going to be people as well who are going to look at the new songs, and regardless of how they are, if they really loved the song that they sent the previous year, they are maybe not going to give the new song a go. There's always going to be those kinds of people, but I think the conversation should be turned the other way around. And I think if we look at the artist's perspective, I think this is a new and very interesting situation to be put in, because it gives these artists a chance to look at what did they feel like was right about the song that they had this year. the ones who maybe have gone through national selection, like Montaigne or the guy from Croatia, you know, they can look at, okay, how was it performing on stage? What did I like about my staging elements? And what would I like to change going into next year? And I think for that reason, we're going to see some of these artists have a great advantage because they may have a clearer view of what they really want to do next year, given that they have more time for it.
Okay, and going on to that point, Gustav, and a song that you adored, I know, was Roxanne and Alcohol You, and she got a bit of flack for potentially purposely performing that a lot stronger than her other songs in the national final. As a big Roxanne fan, do you want her just to come out with a song? Do you want her to have a national final again? Like, what would you want her to do with her music for next year?
I just want her to be her. Actually, she has such a good voice, and like she is such an interesting artist. So I just want her to be her, and hopefully she will do something as emotional as Alcohol You. But I think I will be on the train no matter what.
I just want her in a different dress than what she wore for that song, because I hated that.
I do agree about that.
Yeah.
She has a whole year to find a different one. I'm sure she can find something nice.
Roxanne, stunning girl, stunning singer.
Yeah.
That dress, why?
Yeah, I agree.
Poor lamb. Like, it feels like one of the things like, yeah, sure, I'll wear that in front of millions. Why not?
Yeah, I think someone probably told her to wear that, to be honest.
Choices were made, and I don't know why. Someone got money for that, and that's the thing that concerns me the most. But obviously, on the flip side, some countries have come out and said they're not sending their artists, or they've got to work for their way again. Mainly the Scandinavian nations and Nordics, like Denmark, Finland, Estonia, and Sweden have all said, and Norway have all said, they're running their shows like they were last year, and if they want to compete again, they have to compete. Ulrike has already said she is not competing. Ben and Tana said they are not submitting a song as a duet. Axel of Finland has said he is writing a song, I believe, though, so it's all very up in the air of what's going to happen. Nicholas, Denmark, Ben and Tana was meant to be your act. How do you feel that DR have not given them a chance or haven't even guaranteed them a spot if they wanted it? Because it really feels like they weren't even offered a spot in the final 10.
I mean, from what I can understand, it was actually them who weren't interested in doing it. At least that's what I've heard. I think Tana was out and said that to Danish media. I think, like, especially here in the Nordic countries, I think that the national song contests are just as much of their own thing as they are a selection for Eurovision. I think that's why we see a lot of these countries, myself, my own country included, doing the shows again, because I mean, you look at something like Romania, for them it's easy to do like they did this year, where they do, you know, a 5-song national final with the same singer, because it's like, well, they don't have that strong of a tradition when it comes to these song contests. Dansk Melodi Grand Prix has been a tradition ever since, you know, we came back to Eurovision in the 70s. So obviously there's a lot of tradition here. I mean, and I can imagine it's the same for Sweden, that you know, Melodifestivalen almost bigger than Eurovision itself. So obviously these shows are gonna go ahead. I think what we're going to see, what I can imagine at least, is that we'll see a lot of these Eurovision songwriters, these people who often do songs for Eurovision, who will go out there and offer songs to these singers that didn't get the chance to represent their countries this year, which may mean that even though right now we're hearing these artists say, oh, we don't want to come back, or we don't have any plans, I think there's still a chance we could see them, someone like Ulrike, I think we could still see next year, because I think there's going to be songwriters lining up to do a song for her.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I know Ulrike said she isn't really interested in doing it. I get it, because it's probably because like she found out in September she was doing Melodi Grand Prix, and that's a long time of your life to dedicate to this. But given how much she loves it and wants to do it, if she doesn't come back, I will be more surprised than if she does decide, actually, I do want to do it. Because I get
maybe she'll come back in a few years, right? And I think that's maybe what we'll see with some of these artists, is that they just need some time to kind of get away from this, to process this experience, and then they'll be ready. And I think the public will have their arms open if some of these artists do, you know, have an interest in coming back, and they come back with something that's maybe even better.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chime in, sorry, but like I completely agree. We've got to remember that these songs that they've been singing for, I mean, Eurovision in the end of the day, is something that they've been either writing themselves for a really long time, preparing for like, it doesn't take 2 minutes to make a song, you know, especially a song for such a big contest. So for them, they need to really think, can I make a winning song again? And that's probably what's going through their head. And a lot of them probably think, you know what, this isn't the year for me again. I'll come back in a few years' time. But it is, it's hard for them. It is really hard for them. I have no idea what it's like because I don't write songs, but like, I can imagine.
And that's actually my point. Gustav, Melodifestivalen, obviously it's a huge thing in Sweden, like probably your biggest show. If they took it out for a year and they still had the 6 weeks, but the winner didn't go to Eurovision per se, do you think that would damage the show? Because we spoke several times in this on this show about how many actually want to win and go to Eurovision, and it's now circulating that apparently Dotta didn't want to win because she didn't want to do Eurovision. Would it really hurt the broadcaster saying the Mamas are still going, but we're still going to do the 6 weeks? Because personally, I think you'd get bigger artists coming back to do it, and just for the thing of, we just want to compete, instead of, because I feel like a lot of people, they want to compete, but they don't want to do the extra 8 weeks of touring and performing and all that comes with it.
That's such a hard question. Oh my God. Why do you give them to me? Why?
Because I'm evil.
We know that already.
He's just trying to avoid the question at this point.
Yes, exactly. No, I don't think it would work because the competition part of the competition it's such a big part, and that's what the public wants. I think the Swedish viewers would riot if we didn't send the winner to Eurovision. Traditions.
Cold.
Yeah.
It'd be too cold for me to write in February in Sweden. I was like, I'll stay in. It's fine. Yeah. It's too cold. Way too cold. It's fine, Noosh. Obviously, because of your Armenian descent, your other nationality was Athena Manukian with Chains on You. Gonna be honest, didn't like the song, but would you be happy if she was to represent Armenia next year? Would you want her to return? Do you think there's potential with Athena on a Eurovision stage?
Yeah. So I when I first heard the first version, I was like, oh my God, what happened here? But like, I honestly think they did as much as they could have to make it a better song with the revamp. I don't think it was my favorite, obviously, because I like the ethnicity. Like, that's the part that I like, and having so many instruments in Armenian culture, it was hard for me to be like, why haven't they used it? So I would love to see her do something again, because I think she has potential, a lot of potential, actually. I mean, we saw her completely go up in the odds on the scoreboard as soon as her revamp came out. So she definitely has potential to be top 10. I think next year, if she does perform, I would like to see something a little bit more of our culture, and even a Greek culture. She's half Greek, half Armenian. You could do a lot with that. So I'm hoping maybe they'll see all the comments and do something amazing next year. But yeah, I would love to see her perform.
Amazing. Obviously, with the UK, we were meant to be sending James Newman, and honestly, as much as I like him in the song, I'll be blunt, I'm not too bothered if we send him or not next year, to be honest. I mean, I think he's a lovely bloke, and I think he's a great voice, but my issue was with the song is that I never actively went looking for it, I realised, like, after a few days. Didn't help the German song just dropped 6 hours later, and that was an absolute banger. But,
I still think he should come back next year with a song called One More Breath.
Yeah. I think because James has wrote some amazing EDM songs. If he came back as a songwriter with a song for an EDM track, I'd be the more happy. I'd be for it. But the UK could actually do quite well then. But as a singer, as much as I love James, I must admit I'm not going to be throwing a tantrum when he's not selected. Sadly, I think, which maybe is a bit of a masochistic thing. I think, but I'm a bit not fussed.
I agree with you at that, 100%. Like, I think when I first heard it, it was quite early days when we first heard his song, wasn't it? So, and then we heard all those, Germany song, and then all the Nuts songs came out, and everyone's attention just went straight towards them. So I think, again, the UK, it's such a difficult thing, but we don't put any kind of culture, I think, in our songs personally. And I agree. I think if we had an EDM banger, like it would be a completely different thing, because that's something that the UK is good at, electronic dance music. Like it's huge over here, and it is in Europe too. So for us to connect with the European audience, you need some kind of, you know, connection. And I think either an EDM or some kind of culture, and we have so many cultures in the UK. Why can't we do what like Israel did? Something like that would be awesome. It would just be great.
Yeah. Because the UK and Risk at Eurovision do not exist, sadly. We send lovely singers who are lovely people with inoffensive songs like, yeah, this is nice. Will I vote for it in a top 10? No. And that is the downfall of the UK. Like, it's black and white. Like, people say Brexit. This is like, no, we send good singers with just songs which you like but you won't vote for. And that's the difference. You need to polarize people. Sweden do a very good job of that because people were over the moon the Mamas won. Some couldn't stand the fact the Mamas won, but it was still going to do. But it was going to do very, very well. Like the song or not, those three women can harmonize beautifully. Ben and Tan, yes, their staging wasn't great, but that song is really sweet and amazing. Athenda's song, yeah, it wasn't for me, but loads of people loved how current it sounded. There was potential for all three to do well. The UK, we didn't have that sort of chat, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it. As always. But from what I know, BMG are still going to be working with the Eurovision side of things for another few years. So now they have another year, and maybe now they've had a year to see what actually circulates in Eurovision and what gets people talking. It might give them a better understanding than just, here's a record label here to help us without much knowledge, because baby steps. It's what we got to do.
Yeah, you're right, completely.
Yeah. And talking on to record labels, going to move on to our next thing, which is record labels just pumping out songs and the songwriting camps. Now, the word songwriting camp has become a bit of a buzzword in the last few years. I never heard of it until 2017. Now it's everywhere I bloody look. And the thing that made me realise this is that Polly Genova, thanks to an article by Issy Bubble, and admitted that All of My Love, which was Malta's song for this year, was initially offered to her and was her backup choice to If Love Was a Crime. The song has also been admitted by the songwriter Borislav Milanov that it was also submitted to Dora, the Croatian selection this year, before Destiny took it. So clearly this song has been around for several years, and going on Borislav Milanov, he is the head of Symphonics Records, who do very well in Eurovision. They have had 11 songs compete since 2011, 10 of which since 2016. And they managed to get 2 top 3s, one being Nobody But You and obviously Beautiful Mess. So songwriting camps, obviously we kind of know how these work. They're like 3 or 4 days, a group of songwriters in a big room, and they're just told, write as many songs as you can, basically, either for a record label or a broadcaster like the BBC. And they're just told, we'll pick X amount to go for a national selection. Gustav, as someone who has about has about the same 5 songwriters in your 28 songs, Melody Festivalen. How do you feel about this sort of approach where people are just like literally just writing songs for the sake of it to send out? Like, is this a good thing? Should we cut back on it? Like, because obviously we say every year like Laura Barker has about 5 or 6 songs across Europe. So, God damn it!
I was waiting for that. You know, when I started noticing this, I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because they wrote good songs. They wrote songs that I liked, you know, all that. But by now, I'm pretty bored. You know, it's the same kind of songs. It's the same writers, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just like making words. I was running home from work to do this show, so I'm a bit off today. Excuses. No, but I'm mildly skeptical. Can I say that? Yeah, mildly skeptical.
Okay, Nicholas, obviously, let's go back to Borislav Milanov. You know, like I said, he had 3 songs in 2017. He had 2 songs last year and 2 songs this year. Does it water down the contest or water down the quality they're putting out if they're just literally writing for a Eurovision, or they've just got these in a draw which they're just kind of going, the highest bidder gets it? Like, what's your standpoint on this?
I'm glad I got that question, because here's the thing, right? I have nothing against songwriting camps at all. I'm a songwriter myself, and I think for me, I could benefit a lot from going to one of these camps because I think it's a great way to meet new songwriters, to get inspiration, you know, to because a lot of people do that. It's the same with like because I write scripts sometimes for little short films, and it's always easier for many people to, you know, work together to kind of come up with an idea. It's very hard to write on your own. What I don't like is these songwriting camps and these songwriters, Symphonics being one of them, which their specific thing is that they write Eurovision songs. They don't write songs that are supposed to do well commercially. They don't do songs that are supposed to have a message exactly. They're doing Eurovision songs where they look at what goes well at Eurovision, and that's what we're gonna send. And I think that's a problem because something like All of My Love, we can sit here and say when it first came out, oh, this fits perfectly to Destiny. But then when you hear, oh, it was also offered to Poli or it was offered to whoever was going to do it in Croatia, it's like, well, then it has no identity. The song loses its identity if it doesn't have like any kind of special sound in mind. It's kind of like you just throw it out to anything goes. Really, and I think that's really at this point is what's hurting Eurovision. Because so many of these countries who don't know better think that, oh, we need to pick a symphonic song because they do well, while struggling to understand that there is a lot more to be said about songs that can work both in Eurovision and outside of Eurovision. Because the thing is, Borislav was one of the first people, you know, to come out and say something when all of these things happened, where EBU said you can't have the 2020 songs in 2021. He was one of the first to complain about it. And I'm like, of course he's going to complain, because these songs aren't made to be anything outside of the contest. Without the contest, these songs are nothing. Where if you look at some of the songs that come out of Melody Festival, and it's like, yeah, some of them are written for Eurovision, but there's also songs in there that can live on their own. And a lot of countries don't understand that. A song like Yes works great at Eurovision, barely did anything on the Danish charts. It was there for a few weeks and then it disappeared because it's a Eurovision song. And I wish we could kind of go back to countries sending something that would work in their own country, something that would actually chart in their own country, something that could have a life outside of Eurovision.
Okay, I also partly think Borislav did complain because the two songs he had this year were Bulgaria and Germany, and they were both touted to do very well. And I think there's nothing wrong in sending a song and wanting to win. It's quite clear that Borislav wants a Symphonics victory. You know, the songs he sends are of a very good quality, and, you know, even like Michaela last year, we had that touted as a potential winner as well. Like, we saw potential. But, yeah, like, this whole you can't use your songs next year, I'm quite glad that was put in because, you know, does that artist want to sing the same song for a year? I don't think I wouldn't want to. This time next year, would I still want to be singing Violent Thing? No, I'd be sick of it, to be honest. I'd be bored to death of it.
I hate it all the times, honestly. Like, I love it still, but again, like next year, I would have played it so many times that it's gonna be not really the same impact, is it?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I think even with these songs, I think if people were allowed to send the same songs next year, I think we would see a lot of the songs get changed. Because I mean, I have songs that I've written. I have a song like from around 2015, I believe, and it's still like every time I revisit that song, I change little bits of it. I look at it differently because a year is a long time. We have to remember, we say, oh, a year is a long time. We have to remember a lot of these songs were written in maybe like summer of last year. So the songs will almost be like 2 years by the time that Eurovision 2021 comes around. There will be so many things that people will want to change about them and things that they don't feel like work anymore. I mean, look at someone like Ulrike. Her song Places, it's not that many years ago that she participated with that song. And when we did the interview, she was like, oh God, I was such a different artist back then. Like, so many things can change that I think even if we were to allow these songs, it wouldn't be the same kind of songs next year. We would see revamps to many of them.
It is very true. Noosh, when you see a song come out for Eurovision and you see like the songwriters and the producers, how do you feel about when you see like 5 or 6 names, none of which is the artist? Like, does that fill you with dread? Does it make you excited? Like, because for me, when I see like these similar names, I instantly kind of I kind of get an idea of what it's going to sound like before I hear it. And my example is obviously when France released their song and it came out that Thomas Gierson and John Lundvik had wrote it, I instantly knew it was going to be a slow ballad with a bit of a meh finish, which it was for me. I know, look, you love a ballad, Gustav, so no wonder you loved it. Okay, you love a ballad, and you could tell Johnny and Vic wrote it because it was so similar to his song My Turn. It was almost identical. So do you have the same sort of like dread, basically?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm not a big ballad person, and I it's not that I wouldn't give a ballad a go, because there's some ballads I personally absolutely love. It just needs to have that right oomph, and I think you're completely right, where like if I see the same names again and again and again, I almost feel like the authenticity is going from that song in a way. And it's not so much that I don't think a songwriter can write a song that's completely different, because I think any artist can do anything completely differently. But there's always going to have their like type of vibe in that song, because they're the ones that wrote it. And yeah, especially France's song, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, you know, we've seen that, done that. People want to see something refreshing, and I am one of those people that does get bored quite easily. So I think that's maybe why I think like that. And I'm sure there's some people that absolutely love ballads, and every year again and again and again. But I ain't one of them. I like faster songs, and like I think that's why I'm gonna gravitate towards, you know, saying that I don't like seeing the same names. But yeah, no, completely agree.
Okay, no, I think they're all very fair points, because they it's the biggest complaint we've always had about the UK, hasn't it? That this song could be sung by anyone. Like the last 3 years, I think the only person who sort of made it her own recently was Lucy.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's because, you know, Lucy is in the West End. She knows how to turn a song and make it her own. And, you know, she did a fantastic job. But the others, I was like, they're great, they're fine, but anyone else could sing these. And that's just the sad thing of it. The only thing I kind of think about this is, the only thing I want to change from next year, which I really want the EBU to sort of implement, is when an internal selection is released, I want there to be a live version alongside it. So I think that massively impacts your feelings on it. Because yes, a song in the studio can always sound fantastic because you have time to refine it and make it sound really perfect and polished. But if someone doesn't sound good in the national final and still wins, for example, Ben and Tan was very nervous. They instantly got like negativity because like, oh, she sounds nervous. Can she do that at Eurovision? But, you know, then you've got someone, you know, say, for example, I don't know, Victoria. Could she deliver that live? With Tears Getting Sober, because we hadn't heard of a live version of it. And I think that's just such a massive influence on people's opinion of a song if you hear it live or just in the studio. So that's my main thing. I want a live recording release next year with the internal songs.
It's something that I've always thought about, if there was a way to do that, because one of the things I've always thought about is that because obviously, you know, for some countries, like I know Finland does it, Norway does it too, they have these like preview shows where they show, you know, the songs beforehand, and it gives the public, you know, some sort of idea of what these songs are. It used to be a bigger thing back in the day, but I have always thought about that it is a bit of a disadvantage that, you know, we have something like Russia that has a big production value to their music videos, and then we have like this like 480p TV recording from like Croatia or something, right? And it's always like, it always creates this thing where it's like, even though we aren't supposed to be looking at the visuals of it, it does to some extent create, you know, it does make you think of songs differently. And at the end of the day, that is most likely also why we aren't seeing a Eurovision over satellite this year, because at the end of the day, Russia would put about 10 million into the production, and something like North Macedonia would be calling up from Skype, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So I get that, right? But I've always wondered if there would be a way to do those like previews on YouTube or on those preview shows more fair. Is that, like, for example, that everyone had to submit a video in a TV studio where they performed it live, so we could all get an idea of how are these songs actually going to be on stage.
Yeah. And I think a good example of that was also national finals. When the songs get released in studio, everyone has the fan favorite, and, you know, 9 times out of 10 the fan favorite doesn't win because they don't sound as strong live. I mean, you know, Erika Wikman in Finland, no wonder she came third in the jury, because as good as the song was, she wasn't as powerful live. Something was missing, whereas Axel did sound as good as the recording.
Everyone would have known that Cool Me Down wouldn't have won in Poland if you know, if that's the version we've heard first.
there's a reason TVP has scraped like scoured the internet to clear all evidence of that live performance, because it was bad. Sorry, Margaret, you're a lot better now, but it was bad in 2016. It was not good. But I do think, like your point, yeah, Little Big would have, whether it's them or the TV studio, would have put in a lot of money, because Little Big are a huge name in Russia, and and that's I saw them do a live performance of Uno, and they did it exactly like the music video. So right, that's clearly what they're going to do. That's clearly their idea, and that's how they sound, because this is their music, and I'm here for it because it was mad, but in the best possible way. Is it annoying? Yes. Do I remember it? Yes. Do I love it? Yes.
Oh, I love them.
And to be fair, going on to Little Big, it was slightly different for them, but still they fully knew what they were doing, and they knew what they sent is what they could perform live. And
they are performers naturally. Like, they've been doing this probably longer than most people in the contest. They've been, on the scene for a very, very long time, and I mean, I've been following them since day one. So for me to be like, they're not going to be good live, I'd be like, well, no, they're made for this. They're just made for it.
I think that's a good conversation we could always have on this show another day, just throwing that out there. I think a good conversation is the whole, like, because we see something like Little Big for Russia or Benny Christo from Czech Republic, established artists going up against these like X Factor, The Voice stars, how that kind of compares. And I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. But we'll save that for another time.
The voice rejects, as they always get called. It's not like 2 Eurovision winners haven't won their version of Idol and then gone to win Eurovision. Not at all. Loreen, Mons, winds me up, something crooked. Anyway, songwriting counts, and like the live performances and like churning out songs. I think that's a conversation that will happen to the day we die, to be honest. But my feelings are, it's like I don't mind it, but I just worry about the authenticity of it. And I hope it slowly ebbs out a little less. Because I also want to find out some new songwriters. I want to see some new people do stuff as well. It's a bit boring when you see the same 7 names come up.
I actually have something to say now.
I'll go on then.
In Sweden, we have every year we have this songwriting camp for just female songwriters. And I know that they have submitted a lot of songs to Melodifestivalen, but they have never gotten in. So I think that's the problem. Like, they always go for like the safe choices, like Jimmy Jansson or Thomas Gesson, and all of those. And here we had all of these female writers, and they didn't even get a chance. So
and there's
a little new blood
be said about that, because I think like Dance Musikern this year was on such a different level than it's been for the past couple of years, because we had people like Isambe or Sushbier who were artists that actually had something to say, coming out with their own songs, and a lot of new songwriters. It wasn't just, oh, here's 5 songs by Lisa Kabel and then the rest. It's like, and it shows, because I wish, that we could have more songs. I want to know what the music scene is like in Germany. I want to know what the music scene is like in Belarus. I want to know what the music scene is like in France. I don't want Thomas Gesson everywhere. I think he's a great songwriter, but I think there is something to be said about, and I know like the rule's never going to get implemented. I know like there's going to be so many people who disagree with me, but I would love to see a situation where it was like songwriters had to be from the country that they were representing. But I know it's not going to happen. I know it's never going to happen. But I think we would have such a different and such a more fair competition, because everyone would actually pull out the very best they have in their country, rather than just relying on, and sorry, I'm going to say it, Melfest rejects.
I mean, that would make the competition very interesting. One rule I actually want is that once you have one song represent a country, like a songwriter can only have one song. Like say for example, Laura Barker had 3 last year. It's like, well, where has her time and her energy gone into these 3 songs? Which one has she cared about more? Which one has she worked best, like longer on? Like, and then also like we had 3 months of it's UK versus Sweden, which I just by the end of it I was like, just no, stop it. Stop it. Stop. Drive me mad. Drove me up the bloody wall last year. Right. But so we could go on for hours about this, I think. And I think that's a very good point. We could come back to another time, like, an established act against a smaller act. Does it matter in Eurovision? We'll come back to that next time. But Now, 2020, sadly, it's not going to happen, and there's theories about who could have won and who could have done well. And I think we can agree it would have been a very close, interesting year as to what would have happened in that week in May. But what I want to know is, taking all your personal prejudice or personal feelings out of it, just thinking straight and narrow, what song do you think would have won or done very well? You know, just looking at it from a very direct point of view. And I'm going to go to Nicholas first because I'm feeling evil again.
Good, because I was just about to say, don't go to me first. It's such a difficult question because, like you said, it was such an open and different year. I think like we're seeing a lot of these fan polls now from like different kind of places, and we're seeing like TV stations who are doing like their own little mini Eurovisions where the audience in those countries can give their vote. I think what we've been seeing is that Lithuania being one of the big favorites with the fans, I feel like in a lot of like the polls we've seen afterwards from also like many of the non-fans, that song hasn't done nearly as well. So I think Lithuania wouldn't have been as high as people would have expected them to be. I still think Iceland would have had the best shot. And the reason I say that is because at the same time, I feel like they are kind of the ones who have won Eurovision. Daddy is the one who's won because he is the one who's gained the most kind of commercial success after all of this. And the song, without even going to Eurovision, has already proved that it could work outside of Eurovision. I think that is a big saying when it comes to what songs can win Eurovision, what songs can't. So I think that's still that would have been the one I would have put my money on.
Yeah, I definitely think Iceland was in there because it had that nostalgia factor, which is making a massive resurgence. I mean, Dua Lipa's literally done a whole album based around that concept, which is doing very well. I think Switzerland had a very good shot because it was a very raw, emotional song. I think Bulgaria had a shot. I think Germany did. There were about 4 or 5 songs, but being realistic in my heart, I honestly think Bulgaria probably would have won this year. I think there was just something about it which people really loved and gravitated towards. Juries would have loved it. Like the juries would have absolutely thrown everything at it. And I think the public also, because it does have that sort of, everyone says the same thing. Oh, it sounds a bit like Disney. That's not a bad thing when Disney's used to describe your song. It's like it's got that like something extra about it. And I think that's what would have pushed it over. But, you know, it wouldn't have been a landslide. Not at all. You know, last year it was very much Mahmood versus Duncan. Whereas this year it was like The Roop versus Daddy versus Victoria versus like there was about 6 I think could have won.
But at least now the Bulgarian broadcaster won't go completely bankrupt because let's be honest, they would have had to have like a list longer than Maltese TV shows in terms of list of sponsors to be able to host that show. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. They've hosted before. They did Eurovision 2015.
Yeah, but that also
skip on the budget there, did they?
No, but I think that's also a saying into like that's why they are in such a bad financial state at this moment because I don't think they could afford hosting Junior Eurovision either.
No, so they pulled out in 2016 to save money, and you know their contract before was only 3 years. You know, yeah, Bulgaria have a few issues monetary wise, sadly. But so, Gustav, shall I ask you, or are you just going to say Sweden because you know Sweden? Because, you know, everyone seems to love Sweden every single year, and they seem to do really well. So
yeah, but you know my stand on the mamas. I wasn't the happiest in my household when the mamas won. That was my husband. And you know, this is a hard question for me too, because you know I can't go with my brain. I always go with my heart. That's just how I work. And my heart says Bulgaria. That's the song I have kept listening to, like even now. I listen to it daily. And I would have been so scared in May that Iceland or Russia or one of those. I was about to say a bad word. One of those songs would have won because you know me. I prefer the slow, meaningful ballads. But it would have been a big possibility for one of those songs to win, and I would have been fine with that. I mean, they deserve to do well, but they are not for me. That's Bulgaria. Come on, that's Elliot's statement.
That was not me.
Elliot, come on.
Oh, we
Plain
had to do it.
92.
Someone had to do it.
Yeah.
And by someone, Nicholas obviously meant himself because I was
Obviously.
And there's just around this out. Who do you think was a serious contender in Rotterdam? Where do you think we could have been going next year?
So I'm like you. I think Switzerland was probably going to win, but like Bulgaria as well is something that I don't want to admit, but they probably would have done like either first or second. But it was split between Switzerland and Bulgaria in terms of what I thought would have won. So I wanted to win, different story, but you know, I just think like with Switzerland, I was singing that more than Bulgaria's song personally, just because it was, even though it was in French, I seem to have really connected with that song more than Bulgaria's song. And I like the Disney aspect of Bulgaria, but for me, it just wasn't right for Eurovision. And I know you're going to hate me for that, but like, it's just, I just thought it wasn't really, didn't feel right for me. But Switzerland, I think, probably would have won personally.
Can I just throw out a question here to anyone who wants to like pick up on it? Because I see a lot of like mention about Bulgaria, and what I'm just thinking is, can any of you name a different year in like recent times where a song that's very much in the same sort of style as the song that's won the previous year has won? Because I can't think of that, and I feel like in a year where so many songs are trying to be arcade, yes, Bulgaria is a beautiful song, but it was going to be lost to the average viewer. I feel like I have no doubt about that because it is so similar to last year's.
No, because my thing is that I've always said like when you look back, there's the winning song that follows the year after has never been similar, and that's the pitfall countries fall into. They try and emulate the winner when you should realistically be trying to emulate what else is in the top 5, because that's a case of these songs have done well but have just missed out. So there's still a market there for it. But no, I think the closest you could really get, and this is still a bit of a stretch, is maybe 2009 and 2010, where there's sort of like just quirky chirpiness of Satellite and Fairy Tale. But even then, that's a bit of a stretch.
I just think it's too similar. I think Bulgaria's song would have been not only too similar to Arcade, but also too similar to some of the other jury-grabbing songs that it was up against. So I don't think it would have been a sure top 3 for the juries, because Switzerland was there, Norway was there, and I think there is something to be said about that, where if you put something like what Russia was sending or what Iceland was sending, it had like its own identity, and that's what people would have gravitated towards instead.
I feel like the only thing that would have massively hurt Bulgaria is if they were in the first half and the final, just because like what you said last night, Nicholas, Eurovision is a long show now, and are people going to remember a song they heard, song 7, 8 or 9? Unless it's something really powerful, the answer is no. And I think maybe Bulgaria is just a little too sleepy to go that late, that early even. Yeah. It needed to be surrounded by massive bangers to have something that goes bang and then lifts again. Because although people say having a banger makes the ballads disappear, it can have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
And we saw this. An example of this is obviously Arcade, and then obviously Kluna, Serbian song from last year. Everyone thought that's going to do amazingly. When you see where she was sandwiched, she was hopeless because she had Luca going before her and then Soldi, and so she was just left in the middle. So it's a shame, but it happens. But yeah, it's such a mad one. But let's end it on a more cheery note. Let's go for one. What did you want to win? What would you have like given your 12 to? Like, I'm really intrigued. I'm going to start this, and I know I'm the only one who's going to say this, but I would have gone with Ukraine with Solove. I think that song is fantastic. Don't know what she's singing about. I think it's a bit odd, but there's something about it I just really love, and I think it's really quite cool and different. And I cannot explain what it is. No. Did I love it on first listen? Yes. I just, there's something about it. I mean, don't want to meet her in a dark alley. She scares me. But the song, I think there's just that slow burning intensity about it, which I just thought was really quite cool. I know everyone compared it to Poland's song last year, but this was better. There was something better about it. And I will fight anyone who disagrees. Gustav, who were you pinning your hopes on? I think I know what you're going to say, but just say
it. I have 3 songs this year that I really love, and I can't really choose between those 3 songs. It's Bulgaria, Romania, and Italy. and it's the first time like ever that I have Italy in my top 3. So let's say Italy, just to be nice.
I'm going for a male ballad instead of a female. Okay, that's what we're doing this time. Noosh, who were you champion for in Rotterdam? Who were you been like going mad for?
Honestly, I'll be honest, this is the first year that I could not really 100% decide. I have got to say, though, it would have been lovely to see Iceland or Russia win, although I probably would gravitate towards Iceland just because they're not big and they're not established. And with them like winning it, I mean, they've already won. Iceland's pretty much already, like in my head, in terms of like, you know, how you were saying, like the success after that song was so big that I feel like Daddy has already won in terms of success. So it would have been nice though to see him win with a song like that, because I don't think we've had a crazy song that's so fun and just exciting and you just want to dance to, and we've not had that for a while. We have had the odd ballad the last few like we had Netta Toy, but like normally the ballads do better. That's just what's been happening the last few years, because I guess they're more, I don't know, there's more art into them than just a crazy song. But like, I really would have loved to see Iceland. I think it would have been cool. I just think it would have been awesome.
And Nicholas, round this out, who were you pushing for in the final?
Baby, I can't wait to know.
At least you can make a definitive answer.
And shout out to Mia for making the flag all on her own, so we didn't have to buy like a cheap flag. No, I think Iceland was just, it was so much fun. I was ready to finally have a reason to go to Reykjavik. I'm gonna have to find a different reason now, but yeah.
Like geysers, don't they have those in Iceland?
As much as I would have loved like Switzerland or Iceland to win, it's too expensive. I kind of want Bulgaria to win because it's cheap there. And it's a cheap pint.
Help the Bulgarian economy.
Exactly.
We've all done them something good.
Yeah, we would have bankrolled them for a good 3 years. Their tourism board would have been sorted. But that is everything on the updates so far. Obviously, we'll come back and do these every so often with other discussion points that we can't fit into our regular shows and show formats. Let us know what you think. Agree or disagree with any of these points. Please let us know in the comments. We love hearing from you guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Nicholas is wrong. Tell me Gustav's wrong. I don't care. It'll give me something to laugh at, basically.
But tell it to Elliot the most.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Just say that I'm wrong. Fine. Let's go with this running theme we have for the last 6 months then. Sure. But I just want to thank everyone here. I want to say a big thank you to Nicholas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Big thank you to Gustav.
Bye, guys.
And a big thank you to Noosh. I hope you enjoyed this weird and wonderful world we have here.
So much fun. I had a great time, honestly.
Thank you very much, guys. Keep an eye on our social medias. I think we're doing our next Retrovision next week, which I believe was 1998, the last time the UK won, or hosted even. Whoops. So join us for that. It'll be a great fun. And if you haven't, go and watch our show from last night, that's 2001, where we had the British actor Lindsay Dreykus on the show with us. And it was mad. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. If you haven't seen it, it was mad.
It was beautiful.
It was, but there was no rhyming in this script, thankfully.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you, guys. Until next time. We'll see you soon.
Bye.